Countries around the world which will accept Indian driver's license. I don't think I've ever once considered this in my entire life. Which countries accept other countries' driver's license? So we're focusing on the great nation of India with over 1 billion people living in it. That's a lot of driver licenses. This map's so funny because arguably India has to have some of the best drivers in the world. I mean, it's kind of one of those sink or swim moments. Either you figure out how to be a really great driver or you're probably not going to last very long. So some of the countries in Europe that accept driver's license from India: Spain, Switzerland, Germany, the UK. Then we have Sweden and Finland up here. There also seems to be a theme with the former nations of the British Commonwealth as well. Even British Malaysia is included, and of course Canada and the US. Interesting that one of the only countries in Asia that accept these licenses is Bhutan. Something to keep in mind is some of these countries have certain exceptions or rules, like for instance in the US you can only drive for 1 year, then you need to do some other requirements. Interesting, all US states recognize foreign driver's license though in general. In most cases your license will be accepted for at least 4 months, but it does need to be issued in English. That's a key factor here. The percentage of people proud of their country's empire. Immediately my eyes are drawn to the 50% of Dutch people that are like, yeah. It might be one of those things considering they were so small, they ended up colonizing quite a lot. Also, I've noticed just a lot of people in general completely forget about the Dutch and their colonies. Same could not be said for some of these other countries on the list. Like a neighbor to the Netherlands, Belgium, 23%. Yo, do they not know what they did in the Congo? Like, please tell me they just don't know what happened here. Although that is a huge percentage of their people that don't know the horrors that happened here, like a quarter of their population. Germany, kind of unsurprisingly, is the lowest on this list. A lot of this stuff is their World War I territories, but yeah, it's kind of getting overshadowed by their actions in WW2. The British are second on this list with the highest number of respondents saying that they're proud of their once empire. There's the French at 26, Italy at 21. I'm wondering, are some of these people just referring to the Roman Empire? I mean, I'm sure some of them are referring to what Mussolini tried to do. Surprisingly, Spain is really low, just considering the massive impact Spain left on the world with their empire. But then again, the more I learn about this country, the more I realize how much they hate themselves. Spain is just really divided. I really wish Portugal was on this list because I would guess they would have pretty high numbers. Maybe somewhere near the Dutch, and for the same reasoning, just because Portugal was a pretty small nation. But even with that said, they ended up punching way above their weight. Finally, the last place included the Japanese. 18% of people are proud of their empire. This is another one of those moments where I'm just like, did they not know what they did? I'm actually afraid of like other countries in Asia seeing this. Maybe they just aren't taught this in school, or what's going on? Japan, just don't. I like the follow-up question here though. Percentage of people wanting their country to have an empire. Like, again, Spain might be the only country that increased here, but some of these numbers didn't go down as far as I thought they would. Well, I mean, besides the British, I figured that would just be high. The tiny Caribbean nation, or the Dominican Republic, can fit inside of the nation of Brazil 175 times, yet it is now currently getting twice as many tourists as Brazil, and almost all of Latin America in general. This is insane to me. Now, one of the factors here has got to be its proximity in the Northern Hemisphere. There's obviously a lot more tourists in the Northern Hemisphere, specifically and clearly in the US. But how is Brazil pulling in such low numbers? I always thought that they were a tourism powerhouse. And fascinatingly, it hasn't always been this way. In 2010, the Dominican Republic was only getting 4 million visitors. It was on a rise in 2019, but of course everything changed when the pandemic hit. But unfortunately, Argentina and Brazil's tourism numbers have yet to recover from that. I think that might be an even bigger factor here. The Dominican Republic bounced back pretty much in 2 years, continuing their upward trend. I guess so is Colombia in a way, since they weren't very high in 2019 either. Another thing to keep in mind in terms of tourism to the Dominican Republic is the number of cruise ship stops here. That's definitely got to be beneficial for bringing more people in. Here's each European country with the highest number of registered private jets. Number 1 is Germany at 485. Number 2 is the UK. Interesting that Austria got 3rd. Why are there so many private jets in Austria? Do I even want to look up the numbers for the US here? I'm thinking it's going to be triple that of Germany's. Maybe like, honestly, quadrupled. I'm gonna say like 5,000 actually. Still, that wasn't even close. There's 21,000 service private jets, and apparently Florida is the state that has the most. Okay, so these numbers actually look like nothing, to be honest. We actually shouldn't be surprised at all that the small nation of Luxembourg is pulling in 65. A lot of rich people live there. I'm actually way more shocked to see this out of Malta though. How do you even fit 200 jets on the island of Malta? Have you seen Malta? It's pretty small. Interesting that Portugal is beating out Spain pretty badly, and obviously this is being discussed because a person flying on a private plane emits 10 to 20 times as much carbon pollution as a commercial airline passenger. A German map from 1915 showing what their borders will look like after World War I, or they were just calling it the Great War. They didn't know this one was about to get a sequel. So obviously we have the original World War I German borders, stretches all the way to Prussian lands, but they were predicting back in 1915, only 1 year into the Great War, they would stretch all the way through the Baltics, and even squeeze a lot out of Russia. They were actually saying Austria-Hungary was going to get most of Russia, though. They didn't want that themselves, or what was going on? Like how the Ottomans aren't even considered on this map. Even the Axis knew the Ottomans were going to collapse whether they win or lose. They were going to take this chunk back out of Denmark, and of course, Belgium was going to get annexed. They were also going to get very close to Paris at the same time. Wait, is this saying that this is literally a vassal state? Yeah, Frankreich. I'm pretty sure this is a vassal state. Why were they randomly going to allow Switzerland to get this big? I'm pretty sure this is just a weird map drawing, though. On top of all that, we also have Dutch England, basically. England was just going to get banished to Cornwall. Meanwhile, something's going on with Scotland. I think Scotland's maybe another vassal. I can see how the author here probably did want to amp it up, cheese it out a bit, just to get the German people excited about fighting a war. But this is a little wild, I'm not gonna lie. Hey, at least Poland is here, though. From World War I to World War II, this is the actual land that was ceded from Italy to France at the end there. I didn't even realize that France got anything from Italy at this time. Obviously, it wasn't a whole lot, but it is still significant. This area was transferred back in 1947. Kind of a while after, to be honest there. I mean, obviously, there was still a long way to go, but Italy first surrendered back in 1943. There wasn't a France around to take these Italian lands, though. I guess my argument doesn't really work at all in this case, but I just wanted to mention it. All right, Germany surrendered 1945, though. It's still 2 years? Feels a little bit greedy to wait 2 years after and then be like, oh yeah, you know what? Give us some stuff. So France actually got bigger after WW2. European country names in the language of Navajo. Again, the Navajo language is famous for being code talkers during WW2. There was literally no way the Japanese were going to break that code. But here are the European names in the Navajo language, translated back into English. We're starting off with a beauty, mustache people land for France, and I thought that would be Germany. Germany's actually called the Iron Hat people land. I think I might know where they might have got that from. Again, I'm not going to try to speak Navajo here, but I wish I could. The British were Between the Water people land. That's kind of majestic. Red Mane people land. That's perfect for Ireland. Sheep Pain land for Spain. Okay, Sheep Pain. I don't know where they got that from. No way. Not speak clearly people land? Is this why the Italians use their hands so much? Even they know it as well. Unfortunately, for a lot of these nations, we don't have an English translation for the name. Horned Hat Wear land for Sweden. Yellow and we don't even know what they were referring to Norway as. Many Swamp land. Perfect Finland. Finally, yes, Russia. Absolutely. They just love that color red, don't they? Gotta wear it all the time. Some of them that weren't labeled are direct loan words. And obviously there are several countries that are unknown because they weren't around during WW2. And actually they've kind of only popped up relatively recently. I want a world map version of all this though. Well, they got that right on the money. The world's population concentrated. If the world's 7.9 billion people lived in one city, how large would that city be if it was as dense as the city of Paris, which is 54,000 people per square mile? That city would stretch from Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas. If it was as dense as the city of San Francisco, that mega city would stretch all through Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. New York is a very dense city, as you know, with all the skyscrapers. So we'd be able to squeeze all humans in just the state of Texas if we made it all that dense. Why am I just imagining those planets in the Star Wars universe that are just skyscrapers only? London is not as dense as New York, so they would have to stretch and use New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and all of Texas. Singapore is pretty dense, but they still need 3 states. And then finally, the Texas city of Houston. Not dense at all, only 3,000 people per square mile. We'd have to use pretty much half of the USA. This is half of the USA to squeeze pretty much 8 billion people into. Still wouldn't be fun. Part of the reason why Houston's not that dense though is just because of all the parking lots they got. We probably are going to need a lot of cars since we have all of human population in just the US, so maybe we need a lot of parking lots too. The most spoken first, second, and third languages in New York City. Interestingly, the #1 most spoken language isn't dominated by English in New York City. There's a lot of Spanish in the Bronx, a lot of Spanish in Queens as well. And down here all the way at the very bottom, this is speaks Russian. That is a lot of Russian speakers. That's crazy to me. Now, of course, when we switch the map and show the second most spoken language in New York City, a lot of it's just going to be flipped between English and Spanish. So if it was Spanish before, obviously English is the second most popular language. But there are obviously a couple of outliers here. This is all French Creole. We also got a little bit of Yiddish and Chinese, and then a lot of Russian up here as well. Finally, the third most spoken language in New York. This is where things are going to get wild. There is literally no English labeled on this map at all. English is not a third language in New York City. It's either number 1 or number 2. So for those places that were predominantly speaking other languages, Spanish is coming in third. Again, there's still a lot of Russian being spoken. There's a lot more Chinese in Manhattan. Also a lot of French as well. I've been to New York City like 4 times now. I feel like I haven't heard anything but English, surprisingly. Well, I guess that shouldn't be surprising. I speak I need to learn French Creole and start speaking that everywhere. I'm sure I'll run into someone that will speak to me. There's a lot of Bengali and Albanian, Greek and Korean, Punjabi. Could you imagine how crazy this map must have looked like 100 years ago? Or maybe like 150 years ago? It'd probably be just as crazy as the third most spoken language, except that would be the first everywhere. That's what I'm thinking anyways. Or probably just a lot more Italian. There is surprisingly a lot less Italian than I thought on this map. Where the most shark attacks have occurred in the US. And it is by far and away the state of Florida. Which, I mean, considering the amount of coastline they have, maybe this shouldn't be that surprising. In the case of North and South Carolina though, that's pretty shocking since they don't have that much coastline. There obviously seems to be a lot more shark activity going on in the Atlantic side of the US instead of the Pacific, though California is pretty high though still. According to this graph, Florida is number 1 and then Hawaii is number 2, which again, I guess shouldn't be surprising. The number 1 city in Florida with the most attacks is this one specifically, and it is far and away seen more than all the others. Interesting that that is actually a county in the northern end of the state, not so much near Miami and West Palm Beach. Keep in mind these numbers are based off of the last 10 years. It is still statistically very unlikely to be attacked by a shark. Also, am I reading this correctly? None of these attacks have been fatal in Florida. There's only been a couple of fatal ones in the last 10 years, and 4 of them were in Hawaii. Statistically speaking, it is still way more likely to not make it because you fell out of bed, collided with a deer, ran into some angry bees, or got hit by lightning. Even dogs and cows are out here taking out people. Actually, super shocked to see snakes so low. Vending machines? What? Those things are pretty heavy. I just don't know, like, I guess that's gotta be like human causation if they like pull it back too far. And big thanks to the patrons. I am the kidnapper. I oofed Drew since no one paid his ransom. This channel's now run by AI. Australia-Hungary. I'm Argentinian. $20 is a lot. Asher, 200 Norway, Amateur, Tiny, The Nargin, Traven, John Denver, KirinoIsBestGirl, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Twickenhamster,